Hello everybody, it's Shakes. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to be going over the top 5 best tips to get better at Rainbow Six Siege. Now if you look at the Steam charts for this game, you can see that there's a lot of new players coming recently, and because I got a brand new Uplay account, I've been placed into a lot of these matches with a lot of these newer players, and I recognize that they kind of make a lot of the same mistakes over and over again. And from that you can kind of surmount why I'm making this video. You know, there's a lot of people who just don't understand the game mechanics of Rainbow Six, because there just are so many game mechanics that you should know to get good at the game and just to understand the game well. So yeah, that's what I'm making this video, and without further ado, if you could subscribe, that'd be nice. I know it's self-explanatory, I don't know why I said that. Actually, I do. It's because YouTube will not recommend me if I don't. But without further ado, the first thing you're going to want to understand is crosshair placement. Now, for a little bit of context on this subject, I've made a lot of videos on Counter-Strike before, if you've been to the channel before, and I talk a lot about crosshair placement. It's very, very important in FPS games, but in CSGO, there's a lot more aim skill, there's a lot more recoil that you have to understand, so generally in that game, whoever has better aim mechanics will usually win the fight. So in other words, the gunplay is pretty simple. All the guns do a ton of damage, so they're going to all kill very, very quickly. Headshots are a one-shot kill, so pretty much the gunfights are very, very simple, and they're very, very quick. Now what this means for crosshair placement is that it's even more important than it usually is, because the gunplay is so simple. So if you have your crosshair on them, you're going to get the kill, while if they have theirs on you first, then they're probably going to get the kill. So because of this, your crosshair placement is very, very important, and therefore I surmise that the best place to put your crosshair, whether you're pushing into a place or you're camping, is at dick level. Now you may be saying, oh, why would you do that? That seems so cruel. No, it's not. It's for the best. See, the thing is, a lot of players tend to go for headshots, and that's good. That's pretty good. You know, headshots are one-shot kill, so it's pretty fast. It's a good idea. However, if you are always aiming for their head, you know, when you're crossing over, and you're aiming for their head where their head would be if they're standing up, then if they're crouched down all the way to the ground, then you're going to have to flick your entire screen down before you can actually hit them. On the other hand, if you're aiming where their head would be when they are fully prone, then if they're standing normally, you're just going to be shooting in the middle of their legs, or you're going to be shooting at their legs. It's just not going to be a very, very consistent kill, so the best place is to put it where their head would be if they were crouched, because if they're crouched, you're going to get a headshot. If they're standing up, then you're going to get a body shot, which is also very fast, and if they're all the way prone, then it's going to be a pretty small flick before you can get a kill on them. Now, because of the simplicity of this tip, you see a lot of players, you'd think that, you know, everybody knows it. Why wouldn't they do that? It seems pretty easy. The math all adds up, yet a very, very large amount of people in matchmaking never seem to do this. They always seem to aim for the head because they think headshots are good. Headshots are great. However, if you're always just shooting at the air, then they're not the best strategy. Now this strategy can kind of be bent either way if you're attacking or if you're defending. For example, if you are attacking, then maybe you're going to want to aim a little bit lower, because there's going to be chances that they are camped and they're probably going to be more prone more often. Well, if you are defending, then maybe they're going to be running around a little bit more, so maybe you can aim a little bit higher, because they will probably push while they're standing up or while they're crouching. But as a rule of thumb, or as a rule of really any finger, you should probably just be generally aiming near their crouch head level, just to make sure you win a lot more gunfights, because if you are not doing this and you're just always aiming for the head where their normal head would be if they're standing up, then you're just going to give up a lot of gunfights that could have easily been won if you just made the right decision and followed my tip. Now, having good crosshair placement will get you pretty damn far in matchmaking, but to get even farther, you're going to want to have good operator choice. Now, operator choice is a little bit more of a more expansive topic, so it's going to be kind of harder to explain, but I can go more into depth in another video if you'd like, or if you don't want to, I don't have to. It's your choice, you're the viewer. But in general, for operator choice, I'd recommend, as you should do in life, always play to your strengths. For example, I have thousands of hours in a lot of other FPS games, so I recognize that I have pretty good aim and I can run around and get a lot of kills, so I usually choose people who have 3 speed, which is, you know, the fastest I can be, and also have pretty good guns, because I focus on gunplay more than using my gadgets to win games, and I don't tend to just sit and lock up in the room with the bomb or the hostage or whatever. I usually tend to just roam around and try to get kills while they're trying to push and attack my other teammates. That's just how I play, because I feel like I can get a lot of kills that way. But if, on the other hand, you don't have as much aim skill, but you are really, really creative, you can use your gadgets in a lot of different ways and just play to those advantages, and just kind of play with operators that have really good gadgets, not the best guns, but just really, really useful, and kind of shape the game. For example, someone like Kaplan maybe isn't as fast or doesn't have as good guns, but he does have booby traps that he can put on windows or door frames, and if you are a smarter kind of player, I definitely am not, I can't use traps for my life, then you can provide so much more for your team by doing that than maybe running around blindlessly and getting killed like I usually do. And also a little bit of operator etiquette: if someone is destroying on your team, they're hard carrying you guys, don't try to really steal their operator if they're doing really well with them, because it's probably just going to tilt them and make them super angry enough to make a video on how to not be so bad at Rainbow Six. Wait, Jokes aside though, if someone is playing their operator well and they're doing really well in the match, then maybe don't try to take the operator off them. Unless they randomly start being super toxic in voice chat, then yeah, you should probably do that. Good idea. But yeah, the last piece of advice I can give on the topic of operators is just to learn a large amount of them, just because every operator is not going to be great on every single map, so you're just going to want to kind of diversify your operators, just kind of learn a lot of them, so you can be prepared for whatever kind of situation you get thrown in. Like if it appears that all of your teammates are just going to be sitting in the bomb room, then maybe you're going to want to choose someone that can kind of roam around and get extra kills, just because if all you guys are sitting in one place, you're not going to be really complementing each other's playstyles, and therefore you're not going to do as well as you possibly could. And speaking about running around and getting kills, but generally only dying, we're going to be talking about location. Now, talking about where you should be located on the map is going to be a little bit different for attackers and defenders, so I'm going to split it up. So as for attacking, information is everything. You know, at the beginning of the game when you get that little drone that you can race against your friends that eventually just gets shot by a mean bully, that's not actually the purpose. It took me 4 years to figure that one out. Believe me, it was a rude awakening. But anyway, the second you see enemies, don't just start messing with them, trying to drive through their legs and make them shoot at their teammates. That's not exactly the best idea. Try to figure out what places are fortifying or where the enemies are. Are they running around upstairs, downstairs? Are they all staying together in the bomb room? Try to figure out where they're going to hide, where they're sitting, just to make sure you have a good idea of how to intercept. Also, in my personal experience, it's not always the best to just find whatever door or whatever wall is closest to the bomb and just try to get through it. I recommend actually just kind of going a little bit far away so you can enter in easily and then slowly get your way to the objective, because if you don't, it's pretty easy to just pick you out while you're trying to push through a door, because as you're swinging in through, for example, a window or something, your aim just gets swayed a ton, and if there are any enemies around, then they're probably going to get the kill on you just because it's so easy to hit you when you're flying in, versus if you're flying in and your aim is all bobbing and all that kind of thing, then it's going to be pretty hard to get a kill on them. Just kind of keep that in mind and try to breach where there are probably not going to be any enemies, because if there are, they're probably going to have the upper hand. So just remember to diversify where you're breaching from, because if you come in from where it's closest, you're going to be pretty expected. They're going to expect you to come from there every single time, so they're probably going to have a pretty easy shot on you. And as for the defense side, my tips are a little bit simpler, and it's just because so many more people on defense make the same mistake. Don't just hide in the bomb room. I don't know which kind of genius came up with the idea that just sitting on the objective will not get you killed, but it gets you killed every single time. They're going to know exactly where you are. They're going to expect you to be there, and there tends to be a lot of new players that always just sit near it and wait for their death. Sometimes it does work, but generally you're going to want to be somewhere near the objective so you can kind of get the upper hand while they're pushing in, instead of being exactly where they expect you to be. Now obviously it's good to have someone very close to the objective so they can't just waltz in and defuse the bomb or get the hostage, but at the same time the majority of your teammates are going to be very close anyway, just because of how the majority of the Rainbow Six community is, so feel free to just be that one player that is always exploring on their own and looking for where they're going to push, instead of just being another one of those players who's just sitting on top of the hostage and hoping they're better at aiming than their enemy. Again, it's kind of the same point as I made on the offense, kind of diversify where you're hiding and where you're going to be sitting, because if they know where you're going to be, they generally have a lot more tools to kill you than you have for them. For example, if you are sitting on the objective, if they have someone like a Fuse who can release grenades through a wall, then you're probably just going to die before you even get to see his OP AK-12. Also, as a defensive player, you have to keep in mind that generally the people on offense have more recon scopes. They're going to have more scopes that are better, so generally they just have a little bit of a gun advantage, and through that you can kind of understand that you're probably not going to want to pick long-range duels with them, or just set yourself up in any kind of situation where they may have the upper hand. Rainbow Six to me as a whole feels like a game all about having the upper hand. You know, there's so many situational items that can really give you the advantage, so if you kind of set yourself up for a success, then you're probably going to have success. It makes a pretty that makes obvious sense. Why would I say that? Just make sure you're always trying to tip the odds towards your side. As I said before, as your operator, you should probably understand what he's using and what his abilities are, because if you use a correct operator and use him well, the gadgets they have will be very, very useful if you want to have an upper hand, and that's what it's really all about. Now, as for my next topic, it's going to be team play. Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit before, about if you have 4 teammates and they're all sitting on the bomb, you should probably be running around and making sure you're watching their backside, or if they're penetrating from another level, just kind of look for those things. And obviously having an operator that reflects this is pretty important. You know, you shouldn't have someone who's like 1 speed and try to run around. Maybe that's not the best idea unless they have a great gun like Rook, but just try to play styles that do complement your teammates, because if you help your teammates, they probably will help you. Surprisingly, compared to a lot of its competitors, Rainbow Six has a really good community, especially compared to like Six, CSGO, TF2, Overwatch, they're all known for not having as good community as Rainbow Six, and in my experience, there isn't really that much toxicity even in ranked, so you can kind of tell from that people probably do want to work together to do well, instead of just lone wolfing it and trying to get as many frags as possible, as people often tend to do in CSGO or Overwatch. They think they could just carry the entire game, they're the best player ever, so they're just going to win the entire game, but that never tends to happen. In Rainbow Six, pretty much all the operators depend on each other, so because of that, I think that kind of shaped how people tend to play. They tend to play a little bit nicer, a little bit more with each other, and because of that, I feel like if you are deliberately not playing with your team, there's going to be even bigger consequences. In general, though, team play is something that you kind of learn the more you play the game. You'll understand how to play better with players, just how to play better alongside different comps, just a lot of different things that are kind of, you have to learn them. It's a little bit more of a skill that you get over time than just simply telling you. A lot of these other things, you could just be told, but as for team play, just be nice to your teammates, don't be a dick, and always remember to steal the operator from someone who's being toxic. And my last but not least, probably not least, the least, it's so that it's the most important tip I'd recommend is be ready to learn. Every single time you die to an enemy, it's not just because you're lagging or they're a cheater. Sometimes, and get this, they're just better than you. No, but seriously, it's not always because they're going to be better than you, it's because they did something better than you. There's a reason they got that kill. It's usually because you weren't paying attention, you weren't looking out for them, you didn't expect them to do that. There's just a bunch of different scenarios which could end up in you getting killed and you not understanding why. And because of that, you always have to watch your kill cam and understand how they got the upper hand and how to make sure that never happens again. The most important part of getting better at anything is just understanding how you were bad at the beginning and how to get better. Maybe even watch your own gameplay to see what exactly you did bad, how do I get better, all those kinds of things. It's hard to pinpoint 5 ways you can instantly get better at Rainbow Six, but watching your own gameplay or just watching how an enemy killed you is such a good indicator of understanding what you're bad at or what you should get better at, or what small aspects you should pay attention to and focus on later in your next match. And that doesn't mean every single time you die it's entirely because of you. Sometimes your teammate just shoots you in the head because they're pissed that you took Ash for the 3rd time in a row, but generally if you did die or if you did lose a round, there's something to be learned. Just learning how the enemy plays and how the enemy thinks is super useful at getting better at any game. Spectating your teammates is also very useful if you want to understand the thought process of a Toad. And yeah, if you took all 5 of these tips to heart, you're definitely going to become a better Rainbow Six player instantly, but more importantly, you're going to learn faster because that's the #1 way you get better at the game. Playing the game more often is the best way to get better at the game because obviously you're going to have more practice, and more practice makes it more perfect. I think Bill Gates said that. I don't know. But yeah, that's my top 5 tips for getting better at Rainbow Six Siege. Thank you guys all so much for watching, it means a lot. Like if you did, subscribe if you want to, or if you don't want to, I don't discriminate, and I hope to see you in my next video. Peace.